Hello and welcome to Granada Reports.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Here's what's coming up on tonight's programme.
United by tragedy, Summerland survivor Jackie Hallam gains the support of those affected by Ireland's most deadly fire in her own fight for justice. We will have an exclusive report.
We're here to give her all the support that she deserves. All those families deserve that.
That verdict needs to be overturned for those victims and families.
The incredible response to a widower's plea for some canine company, a story that's guaranteed to warm your heart.
One last dance under the lights at Goodison will be live in Liverpool ahead of the final Merseyside derby at Everton's historic home.
60 years on from Stan Laurel's death, a look back at the life and times of Ulverston's comedy icon.
And will we still be needing the thermals over the next few days? I'll have all the weather details later on in the programme.
Well, first tonight, to another small step forward for the families of those killed in the Summerland fire in their campaign for justice. Tonight, we can reveal that they now have the backing of the survivors and families of those killed in a similar fire at a nightclub in Dublin.
Yeah, 48 people died in the blaze at the Stardust nightclub in 1981, the deadliest fire in Ireland's history. Well, last year, a jury ruled all of those victims were unlawfully killed after decades of campaigning.
Well, our cameras were there as Summerland survivor Jackie Hallam made a trip to Belfast to meet those who stood up to the system and won. Our Isle of Man reporter Joshua Stokes has this exclusive report.
Hundreds of miles from home, Jackie Hallam has come to Belfast, travelling across the Irish Sea for a very special meeting.
Hi Jackie, how are you? Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you. So sorry for what you had to go through for the last couple of years. It's been ridiculous. Just been too long, hasn't it?
Like Jackie, Jimmy Fitzpatrick was also caught inside a devastating fire. In 1981, he barely escaped with his life, trapped inside the Stardust nightclub. In stark similarities to Summerland, the fire killed 48 people and injured many more. Selena McDermott lost 3 of her siblings to the blaze.
Stay strong, and we're going to be strong with you, okay? Give massive support.
Tips and advice and everything that you need.
Jackie lost her mum Lorna and best friend Jane to the Summerland fire. But she and others in her campaign are determined to overturn the death by misadventure verdict placed on those who died.
Death by misadventure is so wrong. It's wrong. So wrong. So wrong on so many levels. Yeah. It's wrong.
Yeah. Well, I keep thinking we haven't come this far to only come this far.
Exactly, yeah. So let's bring it all the way. Once you have the people to support you, you know, and that's all you really need is people to back you and people to believe in you and believe in your story and believe that the end is going to be right for you.
The Stardust families spent 4 decades fighting for their justice, campaigning for a fresh inquest into the Dublin fire, and just last year, their battle was won. Successfully changing the verdicts from arson to unlawful killing, an achievement largely coordinated by Dara Mackin, the lawyer based here in Belfast, now taking on the Summerland case.
Where there are questions of any kind over historical losses of life such as this, it is imperative that they are properly, effectively investigated so that the correct conclusions can be reached. And the reality is the Summerland falls squarely into that category.
What do you think Jackie and the Summerland campaigners can learn from the Stardust families?
That they've both been on the road of grief, they've both been on the road of trauma. And the one thing they know is that you can never give up in fighting for justice. And just as the Stardust families will tell the Summerland families today, they have seen that is a road worth travelling, that is a fight worth having.
Never give up. Never give up.
The achievements of the Stardust families are invaluable to the Summerland campaign, as both join forces to plan their next move. Robert Wilson was just 16 years old when he was caught inside Summerland, and he joins growing voices to overturn the verdict.
Although I was only slightly injured, in Summerland, I wanted to throw my weight in with Jackie and others who lost family members or had life-changing injuries, and I believe that it's only a mark of respect to the people who suffered so much at Summerland that the verdict is overturned.
A sentiment shared by the Stardust families, now standing squarely behind Jackie in her pursuit for the truth.
The journey that she has been on, we've been through it, you know, for 43 years, and we understand her pain and her anguish, and the similarities are just unbelievable. It just brought it all back to us. We were kind of going, hang on a second, this happened before, and nobody picked up the gauntlet then to say, hang on guys, this should never happen.
My heart actually just went out to her because we have been in that position, and to actually see her physical tears and the hugs, the embraces that we gave her, it was so heartfelt from us to give to her because she's an amazing woman.
Just for us to tell her that we were here for her, to give her all the support that she deserves. All those families deserve that.
That verdict needs to be overturned. Absolutely. For those victims and families.
A day filled with emotion, ending with renewed hope.
Meeting them and the support that they're giving us and the advice they're giving us on how to proceed as a group, and they're just such friendly, supportive people. It's just amazing to have met them and for them to come along our journey with us now.
What do you think your mum Lorna and your best friend Jane would think of you now, given you've been on this journey?
I hope they're proud. And I am here representing 50 people that died. 2 of them were very, very close to me, but I and the group are representing 50 people that lost their lives needlessly.
Wherever Jackie goes, she carries the 50 lives lost at Summerland with her, from her visits to the Isle of Man to her recent meeting in Westminster. But this trip to Belfast signifies the next step for the campaign, reaffirmed legal support and the backing of a success story to see it all through. Now standing side by side with powerful allies and continuing her journey to justice. Joshua Stokes, ITV News, Belfast.
Yeah, it's always so moving and powerful hearing from Jackie when she's talking to the survivors in Dublin there, just saying, we haven't come this far to come this far. You know exactly what she means, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks as always to Jackie for sharing her story and sharing her journey with us.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about the Summerland story, just head over to ITVX for a special documentary, The Forgotten Disaster. It's been put together by our reporter Joshua Stokes, so just head to ITVX and search for Summerland.
An alleged survivor of abuse at the hands of a group of Asian men in Rochdale has denied bringing legal proceedings to win compensation. Under cross-examination today at Minstrel Street Crown Court in Manchester, Girl B said she'd done so to hold Rochdale Council to account for their failings when she was in their care. 8 men are on trial and all deny multiple sexual offences, including rape, indecent assault and indecency with a child.
An inquest heard a woman from Warrington who died in Texas was fatally shot. Lucy Harrison, who was 23, was killed at her father's home in the US state last month whilst there on holiday. Today, her mother and boyfriend paid tribute to her. They said she was thriving in life and had a huge capacity to love. The inquest was adjourned and will be reopened next month.
An inquest has been opened and adjourned into the death of RuPaul's Drag Race star, The Vivienne. The brief hearing in Warrington was told 32-year-old James Lee Williams was found dead at home near Chester last month. Police attended and confirmed there were no suspicious circumstances, but the coroner said a post-mortem had identified an unnatural cause of death.
Labour has suspended 11 North West councillors as part of its investigation into a controversial WhatsApp group containing offensive messages. Gorton and Denton MP Andrew Gwynn was sacked as Health Minister over the weekend after transcripts of the group emerged, and later Burnley MP Oliver Ryan was also suspended over his involvement in the group. Labour has now suspended 9 members of Tameside Council, thought to include Mr Gwynn's wife, as well as 2 from Stockport.
I think it just needs sorting out really right from the top and you know, a bit of common sense putting into everything.
We'll investigate it, but nothing will be done at all.
You should keep your thoughts to yourself, it sounds like.
Any job, you know, if you do something wrong, you get suspended while they find out whether it's true or not. And that's, you know, just seems to be the way of the world.
Well, next tonight, to the widower in Manchester with a love of dogs who's now basking in the kindness of his community.
Yes, David Whitehead moved to Chorlton 3 weeks ago. His rental agreement means he's now unable to own a dog, a long-held passion after he'd rescued and cared for so many alongside his late wife.
So he decided to reach out to his neighbours, sending a note asking for company from both them and also their furry friends. And the response just blew him away. Jennifer Buck now takes up the story.
Hello, I think you must be Storm.
Hi, you're right.
I'm David.
It's lovely to meet you.
Great to meet you, and
this is Banjo.
Banjo, hello, Banjo.
The simple pleasure of a four-legged friend and fresh air is that much better when it's shared with someone else. That's all David was looking for when he hand-delivered notes to his neighbours in Chorlton, asking if any of them would like company on their daily dog walk. Since then, he's been inundated with offers.
Starting to feel I might need a social secretary to, you know, to manage my timetable. I mean, I've met 7 dogs so far. There's another 5 coming up, and I don't believe it's the end of it yet. So, basically, I have had just a magnificent response to my letter, even though it wasn't in my nature to have sent it. I'm very glad I did.
With David's agreement, the letter was posted on a community Facebook page. Storm was one of those who saw it and went about tracking him down.
Well, I'd read about it on Facebook, and when I read it, I was just so moved. I think that was on the Monday. Then I decided that night I have to go and print letters, and I posted 30 letters through 30 doors in the hope it would reach him. But I just thought, if that was my mum or dad or one of my grandparents, I would hope someone would respond, because I didn't know if they would or not.
David has always loved dogs, and with his late wife, they cared for many rescue dogs at their home in Belfast. 3 weeks ago, he moved back to Manchester and admits it can be difficult to meet like-minded people.
If you are an introvert, then it's not easy, because you don't instantly sort of charge into pubs and shops and say, hello, I'm David, you know, blah, blah. So, yes, it was hard, and I could certainly, if I hadn't done something like this and the other things I'm doing, I could probably have felt a bit isolated.
It's as much benefit to me as it is to David. As I say, loneliness looks different in different age groups, and we have to connect to each other.
David is pleased he took the lead and is now firmly a part of his local community. Jennifer Buck, ITV News in Manchester.
Oh, how lovely is that?
Lovely stuff.
I love stories like this, and how gorgeous was Banjo as well. Now from one David to another, as we head on to sport, and it's going to be a really emotional night at Goodison tonight, isn't it?
It is. It's going to be a really special Merseyside derby this evening, you know, because for the final and 122nd time, well, Everton will host their neighbours Liverpool at their famous old ground. They're leaving Goodison at the end of the season to move into a brand new home at Bramley Moor Dock on the banks of the River Mersey. Well, Chris Hall is at Goodison for us tonight. And Chris, it's going to be quite the occasion, this, isn't it?
Yeah, lots of emotion, lots of passion, perhaps 1 or 2 tears at the end of the night too, because there is so much on the line tonight. When it comes to Merseyside derbies here at Goodison Park, it's honours even. It's 41 wins apiece, so this one you could say is for keeps. Liverpool come here, of course, off the back of that FA Cup defeat to Plymouth at the weekend. It's Arne Slot's first Merseyside derby. For David Moyes, it's number 23, and he's hoping to replicate what he did at the start of his first term here as Everton manager, and that's win the derby.
I've been involved in some of these Merseyside derbies, and it's been incredible when it was Jamie Carragher and Steven Gerrard, and it was a case of who was going to kick who first, really, and how it went. So I've got big memories from that.
You also have to stand up to those emotions, but because I've noticed that also in the Plymouth game, that the intensity of the tackles, how aggressive they were, that was a quality of their players, but it was definitely also because of the emotions in the stadium. So we have to be up for that.
Well, this, of course, was due to be a lunchtime kick-off back in December before it was postponed, and Everton favourite Graham Stewart, a veteran of Merseyside derbies down the years, says the fact that this one is a night match just adds to the occasion.
Goodison Park under the lights is an amazing place to play football. You know, I was back in the day when I was at Chelsea in the Shed End and all that sort of stuff, but they were like, felt like a million miles away. Whereas I came here and the proximity of the stands to the pitch is so close and the atmosphere is intense. Bramley-Moore Dock is going to be an absolutely incredible place for us to go, and it'll be the most iconic stadium in the country, in my opinion. But let's just enjoy the memories of Goodison Park.
Well, those brand new pictures of Everton's new stadium were released today, something to whet the appetite for the future. But Everton fans tonight can indulge in a bit of nostalgia with local band Gustavsson, and they'll be singing live tonight at Goodison Park their new song, Lights Under Goodison, which is a tribute to Everton's iconic home.
I mean, it's our spiritual home. I say it's like a theatre for football. Like, it's the place for me where I switch off for 90 minutes, sometimes 97 minutes. I've been running around those streets ever since I was a kid, so I knew that Everton and the old lady deserved a song.
So after 130 years of history, there are just 7 games left here at Goodison Park, and few of them will have the emotion and the atmosphere of this one.
Yeah, thanks very much for that tonight, Chris. Chris Hall, man of the people.
Just take a decision in the moment, you know that? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. The composure that we have to manage the situations, today we are not able. Fresh minds, fresh legs, and go for them.
To the Football League now, where both Burnley and Blackburn are in action tonight. And with John Eustace on the brink of joining Derby County, Rovers begin life without their head coach at West Brom. Meanwhile, last night in the Championship, Preston North End enjoyed a 1-0 win away at Norwich. Stockport were denied their 6th win in a row as a late goal for Bristol Rovers saw that game in League One end 1-1. And in League Two, Barrow were our only winners. They beat MK Dons 2-1 at home. And that's Who's Sport for tonight.
Brilliant. Oh, it's going to be great at Goodison, isn't it?
Oh, what an occasion that's going to be. Special night.
Any guesses who I'm supporting?
Liverpool. This month marks the 60th anniversary of the death of Hollywood legend and comedy genius Stan Laurel, who was born in Ulverston.
Yeah, together Laurel and Hardy made over 100 films, and despite his fame and fortune, Stan never forgot his hometown.
Paul Crone took a trip north to Ulverston to remember the man who always found himself in a fine mess.
He's rightly proud of its most famous son. One half of arguably the best comedy duo of all time was born here in 1890. Raised by his grandparents, he lived here during his early years. And even though it's now 60 years since he died, Stan Laurel is never forgotten, not least in the local Laurel and Hardy Museum.
Stan said of Ollie, the person who makes me laugh most in the world is Oliver Hardy. So he was always happy to give Ollie a good line. If he thought the joke was better coming out of Ollie's mouth, he'd write it for Ollie. There was no ego there. There was no desire to make himself look better. Stan had one aim and one aim alone, and that was to make people laugh.
Lancashire comic Steve Royal, himself a master of mirth and a big fan of slapstick, fully appreciates the skills of Stan and Ollie.
I think the key to Stan and Ollie is the silence more than the actual actions that they do. It's the little moments where they just look at each other and that smile, that little... Just, it's the simplest of things, but it's just silly. It's so simple, it's genius.
Anything especially you want to do over here, Oliver? Nothing, but try and make the people happy, and will you keep quiet a minute? And have a good time, and have everyone else have a good time. I'm talking to the gentleman. Will you keep quiet just a moment?
Stan left Ulverston to seek fame and fortune in America, and that he did. He would eventually meet Oliver Hardy, and together the two made over 100 films, movies that still make us laugh today.
But I actually think the genius of Laurel and Hardy is they're both straight men. They're both totally oblivious of the consequences of their actions.
Stan Laurel never forgot his roots and returned to Ulverston with Ollie in 1947, appearing before packed crowds.
I meet people in the museum, even still all these years later, that saw them on stage or got their autograph somehow, and yeah, I'm always very jealous of that when that happens, yeah.
Stan died in the February of 1965, days after suffering a heart attack. At his funeral in Hollywood, the eulogy was given by none other than Dick Van Dyke, and Stan had left strict instructions that if anybody cried, he'd never speak to them again. The legendary film star once said a day without laughter is a day wasted. In that case, Stan Laurel never wasted a day of his life. Paul Crone, ITV News, Ulverston.
Here's Joe with the weather.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. Another rather drizzly and grey day today, hoping for a bit more brightness perhaps during the day tomorrow. The cold theme continues weather-wise through the rest of this week. Mainly dry conditions, but there will be a few wintry flurries to come, possibly during Saturday with snow on higher ground. In the meantime, we're just about avoiding any fronts, and across the UK a feed of cold air keeping temperatures a little depressed, below average for the time of year, and feeling very chilly both by day and night. And that's certainly the case this evening. One or two showers feeding through, but mostly dry conditions, with skies beginning to clear a little bit through the early hours of Thursday morning. As a consequence, it'll be cold. Temperatures dipping down low enough for a widespread frost, particularly away from built-up areas. Before tomorrow morning, a few fog patches here and there, winds falling very light as we start the day tomorrow. Those are the sun times. It's up at 7:35, setting just after 5:15 tomorrow evening. On to tomorrow's details then. A cold start to the day, a little bit of mistiness around, more brightness on offer for the northwest during the day tomorrow than we've seen today, but cloud will come and go. Should be a dry day, mind you, but from that low starting point, temperatures are going to struggle to exceed more than around 4 or 5 degrees, and it will feel very cold. The air is like a fridge at the moment. Tomorrow night, another frost to come. Looking ahead to Friday, a little more in the way of brightness perhaps for a time, but cloud will build later on. And into the weekend, there's the possibility of a few showers which could turn to snow on higher ground in the Pennines. It remains cold through the weekend. Next week, temperatures will lift just a little bit more. Bye-bye.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Lecky blanket tonight.
Absolutely, it's going to be cranked up to the max again.
Stay warm, people. Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.